this is a smaller group for us today. This is kind of fun. You guys can ask me any question you want to be honest. I'll just dive into the important stuff and then,
I seriously thought this was going to be like I think people just get scared of this stuff. When I
oh,
read it, I was like, well,
Yeah.
I don't own a company, but I want to hear you guys talk about it.
are you, Louis, what do you guys do? Cash or accrual?
I think we do both. Like I'm outside of it a little bit. Like Becky from my team. I was gonna try to invite her, but she's got a conflict. We do accrual for taxes and
Okay.
cash for I think just looking at it, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
cash flow. Right. Yeah, yeah.
Just cash flow,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, our tax situation is really complicated because of all the LLCs and stuff, like the production company and
Mm.
because we have a side production company for shoots.
Oh, right, right.
So it's like,
And they all roll
pilot.
up to a main, like a mothership kind of a thing, or
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah,
They're
yeah, yeah,
subsidiaries. Yeah.
yeah. It was also really complicated because I used to have a partner who passed away, and then that was really complicated.
Yeah.
But I used to have two shoot companies, one for union, one for non-union, and now I just have one shoot company because most everything is non-union, or you can just do it union with another shoot, like a union signatory.
Yeah,
So,
right.
but yeah, I mean, like the tax situation is just super complicated, it's like and
Yeah.
expensive. But yeah, that's how we do it. We have like an entity, and then we still have an entity for Los Angeles. When we had our office out there, we had that entire entity was its own LLC, just in
Oh.
case, like a plane hit it or whatever, like the entire office, the payroll, everything was its own entity. So
All right.
we had Pilot West Side, Pilot NYC, and then we had two shoot companies, and everything went up into Pilot NYC. So
That way you could walk away if you needed
yeah.
to walk away from it. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
I mean yeah. I mean we haven't ever walked away. Like we didn't walk away in New York when we had to pay for the office for 4 years. We just decided it was worth, just paying
Yeah,
it. But I mean, but yeah, it's set up just in case there's a terrible, thing that happens.
yeah.
So,
Because it doesn't happen often, but sometimes a production could really
oh
do
yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
damage, and you can kind of
Yeah.
reconcile things and not
Right,
have
right,
it
right, right.
touch the other. The other one can function while the other one's kind of recovering from it or something. So yeah.
Right. That's why all the shoots go through a shoot company. We have Pick Two Productions, as in Pick Two, Fast, Cheaper, Good. And that, and that has all the shoots go through that company. And just in case anything happens on set or anything, we can always burn that LLC and start a new one, for that.
Yeah, yeah,
But they all tee up into Pilot, into now Copilot Pictures LLC, and then the insurance covers everything, all of them.
oh, nice. Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool. So you
yeah,
get the subsidiaries covered with one policy.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
nice.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah. They
And the
even cover
employees are
like
part
their
of all employees are part of Copilot, I'm guessing. Staff
yeah.
employees and then subsidi or whatever contractors go through the different, yeah, super smart. Yeah.
Contractors actually go through Copilot, but we use a PEO, so our staffers actually go through Insperity, which
Oh,
is a
sure.
PEO through that. So that's easier. It
It's
works really
amazing what
well.
we've
I mean,
stacked. But like 20 years ago when you got started, these resources were not available. The PEO
yeah,
field was not a thing to work from. Like you would just basic corporations and bookkeepers were basically, if you had a good
yeah.
bookkeeper, you did it well. If you had a bad bookkeeper, you didn't have those resources.
It's great now, I think. I mean, like it's really it's functional, and like basically every 2 years or 3 years we go to our PEO company and say, instead of, oh my God, we're at your mercy, we go, we have three bids. Do you want to match it? Do you want us to stay or not?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's fantastic. I mean, JustWorks, TriNet, I mean, a bunch
Gusto.
of smaller ones,
Yeah,
I mean, there's just, it's fantastic.
yeah. And they do such great work too. It really does work, especially with if you have people in different states, like COVID spread people out. So that's really super helpful that way.
Yeah. And Insperity is really great because they've been around for like at least 40 years or something, or 50 years. Like they're the oldest one, and they're like super, super on it. And I don't know. I think they're really good. Like they definitely have that they make the health insurance situation way better. Like you have massive savings with that. Where I actually fired our insurance broker because he didn't tell me about PEOs. And I was like livid when I found out that they existed. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is an option, like, so it's crazy.
Vasily, you look dressed up, man. We going out after this?
No, I'm actually I've been going to a DevCon conference over here next
Oh
to
yeah.
me. Really good, really, really interesting stuff. So I don't
Oh,
know if you
cool.
guys have ever been to it. Um, Kind of eye-opening what's going on there. But some really amazing ideas, Tim. I'm gonna have to share that with you a little
Oh
bit
really?
later, just about IP and how to like get it into it's really like I talked to a few guys and like, wow, just blew my brain. They wrote a white paper with me just now. So like a
Oh
couple days
really?
ago. It's really good, Tim. I'm telling you, you're gonna love it. I'm from like
All
I
right.
just want to see I want to see your eyeballs light up when you do
Right.
this stuff. Because I'm gonna package it and send it to you and then maybe we can do something with it. It's really amazing. I
I'm
just
sorry
gotta
we didn't get to meet in up in LA.
yeah.
We were so close to
All good, all good.
yeah.
You're a man in demand. What can I say? You know
It's
what?
limited resources. Here's the reality of my life too. Like even if I had time available, I like my grandkid too much. So even like everybody has the hardest competition now because they have an awesome grandkid I want to
So I
hang out
just need to become your grandchild, Tim, and then you'll see me, you
with.
know.
Come on board, whatever.
Where is your grandchild physically in the country?
In Oregon.
Oh, in Oregon. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So we see him enough. We split our time between LA and Oregon,
Yeah.
and then travel
Yeah.
our way through things. So, um, but yeah, it's just fun. Just look at this little life, and you're a grandparent, not a parent, so it's a lot more fun.
That's awesome. So let me ask you a question. I do
Yeah.
have a question. When you do the cash board with people and you get them, like, I know you've encouraged people before to do accrual, but like, do you keep them in cash like a bunch of the year and then try to get them to do accrual for getting ready for taxes and all that kind of stuff? How does that work?
Oh yeah. Right. I think that's a good question because a lot of CPAs, when I say, hey, I want to move to accrual, it's almost like the CPAs freak out because accrual in a large corporate, you're basically reconciling every single month to an accrual basis. And when you
Right.
close your books, you just close your books, you just put things in there. But we mostly concentrate, depending on the size of the business, we mostly concentrate on the last few months of the year because those are the ones that have the biggest impact to taxes. We're not, no one that I work with is filing for Wall Street. They don't have public shares that they have to meet some demand.
Yeah.
So, and it's really interesting. I think you guys all know. I kind of built like this a simple thing to kind of show why and how to do this, but that's not it. Let's find another one that does it. Um, Here it is. Here. I'll let Aaron in too. There, that's been shared with you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the trick to me is like it's the cash to start. And Vasil, this is I kind of learned this from working with you guys originally. This is what a Simonoff group kind of helped me learn 20 years ago or so now. But the trick is this, right? This cash to start. So if you're in a cash basis and you think about a cash basis, small businesses do this all the time. They're basically like, here's how profit's calculated. Revenue minus expenses equals profit. So then you have a CPA that says, "Hey, let's reduce your profit at the end of the year, spend more money." So then people run around and they give bonuses and buy television sets or whatever. But the reality is that if I spent all $125,000 I had cash on hand, come January 1st, I have no money left. So my only influence, the maximum influence I have is 125,000 and I can't spend all of it. Especially if the reason why I have this $300,000 in profit is because a project came in December 20th, doesn't deliver till March 3rd. I just
Right.
received a payment in
Yep.
cash. It's going to look like profit on my books.
Yep.
So to go spend it somewhere else is really difficult to then not have the money when I actually have to pay those bills. So that's this is what cash does for you. With accrual, you can still have additional expenses if you want to, but what you do is you can defer $300,000 in revenue.
Right.
You have no profit for tax reasons. This revenue moves to next year's revenue. So you now have $300,000 in 2026 in revenue, and I still get to keep my $125,000 cash on hand. So I still might do bonuses or something like that into year expenses to get some of that down and defer a little bit less. And it's not like you wouldn't move 100%. You do. There's other reasons when you work with a CPA to do it. But that to me is the key. It's like this finishing cash is such an important element. And when I first got started consulting, I didn't understand these principles. And a lot of people were in a cash basis. The only thing they were being told to do was spend the money. And then to be honest, a lot of people call me in January and February. They're like, how do I all my money? Because my CPA told me, and like the CPA didn't have to run the business. They were just trying to save you on taxes. So I,
Right, right,
I
right,
learned
right.
accrual and started going like, wait, everyone should do this. So that's the
Yeah,
shift for me. So
yeah,
your question's
that's
a good
that's
one.
interesting.
Yeah, your question's a good one because it's like accrual accounting as a process is something you can look at on a regular basis. So agencies that I work with that do, $6 or $7 million a year, they have to almost operate everything on an accrual basis because they're getting retainers and then they're matching expenses, and we try to keep it all within this monthly bubble. And so everything could stay on accrual, and it makes a lot of sense. But
Hmm.
for most of us that are under 5 million, maybe even if you're under $1 million, it probably isn't even worth the accrual process because most of it's just in cash anyway. Because you're a freelancer or you're getting a job and spending the money one to one. So there's probably a tipping point for most people. But like in your case, Lewis, I would say like you're going to function in cash because cash flow is king. I just want people to retain as much cash as possible going into Q1. And
Yeah,
that
yeah,
to me is the most important. Q1 cash is worth twice the value in January than it is in July because fewer people have money in January. So that's when you could grow your business, hire somebody, make different offers, say yes to projects other people can't because they don't have the cash on hand. That's
yeah.
like to me, it's like that Q1 money is just so valuable when you get to hold on to it. And it's because people didn't do the proper, you know, planning at the end of the year to retain that money.
Right. And there's a lot of flexibility at the end of the year if you need to get rid of, like, quote unquote, get rid of cash. Like, we had a couple years where we had a lot of cash, where we did a cash balance plan, we did prepays, we did, all kinds of stuff like that. But I
Yeah.
mean, it, to your point, I mean, like, there's also using accrual to keep money and push it, like in the right way. I mean, it's just all, I mean, it's beneficial to have it, like you said, in Q1.
When I've seen people, and I understand this intention too, so I'm not speaking against it, but a lot of people investing in profit sharing plans and 401k plans and all that kind of stuff as a hey end of year, it's an easy way to move cash to my employees. It creates a benefit package for them. It feels like a win-win. The difficulty is that you might do that in a good year. In a bad year, that's a big burden. So there is
Yeah,
a
yeah,
long-term liability when you start those programs. Just because you have one good year is not the right year to be thinking long term. You have to understand the
right,
big picture
right.
towards it.
Some of them have pauses. Like, we paused one of them, like, we've paused the cash balance plan before. We've frozen rather, than pause,
Yeah,
frozen.
yeah,
Um, because we had one year we just had to do it. That was very good, and we knew that we were going to pause it later because it's not sustainable, you
yeah,
know. And they let you freeze it, and it works out well. But yeah, it's also, there's a little bit of a culture thing there too, like getting people used to profit sharing as well, like, and
yeah.
and habituating them to that kind of thing. So
It's interesting because and I could do a whole session just on benefits, but it's interesting working with a lot of companies that, you know, rightfully so think that if they have a better benefits package, they retain people. But I can tell you globally, it doesn't seem to have an impact. Most people move on in their career because it's time to move on in their career, regardless of the
Yeah.
extra $24,000 they're getting in some kind of bonus, or in some cases $5,000. And I've seen companies and have enjoyed the vacations at the end of the year and that kind of stuff with companies. And still, it doesn't seem to have a long-term retention to it. So if you're going to do it, you do it for the right reasons and put that in place. But just to reduce taxes, it's really, really difficult.
Yeah. It's hard to be nimble, and it's hard to do it at the end of the year. You have to plan way ahead to do it.
I'm going to repeat myself real quick because Anna and Tristan and Aaron just jumped on. But guys, I just kind of want to show you this little spreadsheet I made to kind of understand what I'm talking about when it comes to a cash and accrual. I'll kind of reduce it here. Just repeating myself too, but the goal is looking at this end of year cash, right? So if you're working on a cash basis, the way profit works is revenue minus expenses equals profit, and you're trying to reduce this profit for tax benefits. If you're in a cash basis, the only exercise you have here is additional expenses. So even if I were to use all of our cash and put it into bonuses or whatever, move it away from the company, the issue is I have no cash left, and I can only have the influence to the maximum of what I have on cash. Like I can't go beyond that. But on an accrual basis, I don't actually do this. I defer revenue. So by deferring revenue, this $1 million in revenue becomes 700,000 in the year that I'm in, and next year starts with $300,000. So at this point, my $1 million year would become a $700,000 a year, and then my 2026 starts with a $300,000 in revenue. That's what accrual allows you to do, is defer. The reason why you defer is that I need this cash, especially if I got awarded a project at the end of the year and I have to pay bills in January. I need to have some cash on hand. If I defer the revenue for that project, I get to move the cash into the next year, and then I get to have the revenue and expenses there without it having a hit on my profit. So here I have to retain the money. And if I got this $300,000 on a project awarded, December 20th, and no time to spend it because it doesn't deliver till March, I'm paying tax on this $300,000. I'm going to lose 50% of this money to the government, and I needed that money to pay my freelancers. So this deferment allows me to keep it, right size my profit down to what I would actually owe, and have no impact on overall cash. So that's the big thing that a lot of people, I want people to realize the benefit of the accrual process. And then Lewis basically asked, do you have to functional on an accrual basis the entire 12 months? Or can you just kind of like at the end of the year defer those projects one time? The answer is yeah, you can just wait to the end of the year and then make the deferral. There are some agencies that are large enough that defer and actualize revenue on a month by month basis, just so that they have visibility and accountability for the projects and retainers and those things attached to it. But most of us function in a way that we can do cash flow on a cash basis end of year, kind of look at projects on hand. And if you're using a roll up, it's actually pretty easy. I think a lot of you guys are using the roll up, but what our roll up looks like. It looks like something like this. And here, like if this was a list of projects on my roll up, which I can zoom in if that helps. That helps if I zoom in a little bit. A list of projects. Really, I can just look at the delivery date. So here's a project that's, this one will deliver before December 13th. So all of this is earned in 2025. I guess there's a wrong year here. 2025. So I can't defer that 100,000. But here's one that's awarded in November, doesn't deliver till March. So this 50 grand, maybe almost all of it or a large portion of $50,000 can be deferred. these larger projects, even if it's awarded in November and comes in January, I still might move more than 50% of that project into the next year, just because the 80/20 principle that at the very end of all projects is where most of the expenses are. So I mean, if therefore they're earned that way. So these bigger projects, I might just strategically think about how much cash I have there. So besides end of year profit, the way you kind of do is you look down your projects. This is the projects that are available are what you can defer and delivery dates. And you can even stretch that, work with your CPA and get his or her insight on that. But you can stretch that to say, even after I deliver, if I'm retaining that client, let's say I work with a client, I do 6 or 7 projects a year. One project is delivering, but more of that, I will work with that client continually. I know agencies that say, no, I'm basically taking a loss on some projects and gain on others. So when I can defer more to next year because I know I'm going to be, that's not totally earned until I finish the whole contract or finish out that whole relationship or that entire campaign. I just got 3 pieces of it now and something later. So that level of discernment, it kind of gets into the gray area if you can or can't do that. And that's where you ask your CPA what those levels are. But for me, that's the most important part. You do not want to be in January without money. It leaves you so desperate. Or what you do, and sadly, is you go to your line of credit and you basically essentially went to your line of credit to pay your taxes because you're using your line of credit to cash flow because you used all your money in December. And that's really a poor use of a line of credit. So
Right.
accrual is different. And is
Or
anybody
you-
here
or you-
not on accrual? Talk about your list. Go ahead.
No, sorry, I was gonna say, or you just keep pushing taxes through, like with extensions. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what
You move your tax filing till November and then you hold your cash that way. Yeah. That's true too. Who is anyone here on cash or anyone done the transition from cash to accrual? And know what that's like?
many years ago, but
Yeah.
again, I didn't have as much visibility into it because we had like a consulting CFO at the time.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's brutal.
The first year you do it, the government doesn't let you just throw a switch and then do it this year. It's almost like you have to, there's like a basis of how much you can defer in the first year. And so that basis carries over and you get profit there. So I don't want anyone to think like Tim said I could do it, and now all of a sudden, my CPA is telling me something different. There is a process to it, but in the long run, it's a very healthy way to run the business. And again, deferring revenue is so much easier than finding crazy things to spend money on that you actually don't need. And then you have a whole bunch of TV sets and no cash to pay your freelancers. That's the worst part of it.
So what's Tim can ask you, what is the drawback? What are some of the challenges there of going to that method?
You mean switching over from one to the other? Yeah. There's in the short term, you just don't get the immediate impact that you do. So that's the first thing, is just like to understand what the process is like and what the benefit is in the first year. In the long run, it will always pay out. The other thing is that I've seen one person, maybe 2 people, kind of get stuck. And what I mean is that they deferred a bunch of revenue into the following year. And then that next year they had too much money, so they deferred it. And the next year have too much money. And basically they're just pushing a tax bill into the future that they're going to have to catch up on. But a lot of financial advisors understand that how accrual works, and they advise you to say, hey, this year it would be good for you to actualize some of what's been held back, and kind of, we have the money on hand, let's actualize some of that and pay the taxes on it, then let that kind of snowball happen. It's not bad to defer because basically that's the intention, is to defer it so there's always money into the future. And for future planning, it's so much better. Like, you're just starting the year with a nice runway. Let's say I deferred money from right now, 2025 into 2026, and I deferred like $200,000. what I know is that I could at least I have $200,000 worth of salary I can pay before I get down to zero, and it becomes actualized. So, meaning that or becomes earned. So, well, what that means is like I could basically run out my reserve, and I have people on hand and buying time with them until the next project comes in. So that's a really kind of helpful when you're doing research and development on projects or on behalf of clients, that kind of stuff. Like Vasil, you deliver a project, but you actually are still developing R&D because they're going to need you to update that software or update that service. Well, even though it's not a project, that is unearned profits that you have to carry over to do those updates. So you have to understand that part of your business and say, half of all of our profit is actually needs to be spent in the future to maintain what we do as a business for research and development.
And it's just as easy as just talking to your CPA and just saying, hey, I want to do this, find a way to defer
Yeah.
this amount, or, obviously legally, the projects are still going on or very close to the end of the year, right?
Yep, that's it. You just say,
Okay.
I want to switch over. They're going to ask you a series of questions. I don't know
Mhm.
why, but most CPAs, I feel like, try to talk you out of it at first. And
It's more work for them. That's why.
I think
Maybe
that's
that's
how
why.
they hear it.
Yeah.
But what they're not expecting is for you to have a project tracking system. Like I think they're taught in CPA school, keep people on cash because if you don't, they have to maintain some sort of a system. But most of you are maintaining a project
Yeah,
list. It's
of
kind of
course.
how
Yeah.
our industry works. So
Yeah.
it really is very well suited for our industry. I just don't think a lot of people on the accounting side understand our industry and how well we actually track that stuff. So
Got it.
it's usually
Does
like a
it,
little bit of extra push, like, no, I got it. We're going to be okay. And then you can do that work.
but potentially does it raise the risk of audit or no? Is it
No, not at
possible that the
all.
government's like, okay, let me see your projects now. When did you complete this?
No, not at all.
No,
Matter of fact,
no,
I no, no.
no. Okay.
I mean, maybe I shouldn't be telling you. No, it doesn't have. So I
Is this
shouldn't say it so
recorded?
definitely, but it is a
Tim told
legal way of
me.
doing business, and there's nothing
Yeah.
you're doing wrong by doing it.
Right, right.
Yeah, I
Got
think
it.
I think the only thing my accountant would say is that if you're switching all the time, that might be
That's the one.
Mm,
a,
yeah.
a red flag for audit. If you're switching back and forth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
And I've had
like
people that have like a cash business and an accrual business, and they move it between the two businesses. I think that's like a no-no because it looks like you're just burying money to your own benefit.
Hmm.
But if you're just doing it in practice, um, yeah, it's basically your money, and you could do anything you want to with it strategically and within the limits, obviously. But um, there's
Yeah,
nothing
makes
wrong
sense.
about
Makes
that.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I also think a lot of us start our businesses and our aunt helped us set up the bookkeeping and they only knew cash. So you kind of just inherit this thing and never know to ask the other questions. So the real reason I like to introduce this is just so people know there's an alternative and to be smart and figure out what's right for them. But I am a future looker. So I want to know what my January, February, and March look like. And I want to finance that in December and not have to pay tax consequences for money I know I'm going to spend in the business. I'm not taking it home, and hiding it that way. I'm keeping it in the business and spending the money. So that's what it's for. You guys are like the easiest audience because you're asking like the best questions. So I'm now just going to sit here and answer questions because I don't have to. Trista, what do you guys do? Are you guys cash or accrual?
We started out as cash and then we moved to accrual pretty soon after we acquired Postmodern, but and it works for us because I'm with you. It being able to budget in for Q1 is really helpful. And then sometimes you just kind of get somewhat of a lucky situation where we had a pretty large shoot mid-December
Yeah.
2024. And so we paid all the freelancers for production because we freelance production and then we have all post in-house. And so all that expense went out, but we didn't send out the invoice until the first of the year. So we were able to kind of, I mean, all
Sure.
legit, but sometimes you just have those really great timed projects that really work out in your favor. But I wanted to sit in on this, even though I'm a Accrual fan, but just to really understand. But also, I was just talking with a girlfriend who's same position. She's an owner and producer in more of a episodic production and post world, and they're cash. And I was talking to her about it, and I didn't really know enough to, she wasn't asking for advice, but have you ever thought about that? Just because she's kind of the same thing. She runs the operations and she oversees the finances like I do. And but
Yeah.
I was really curious why they would at the size company they are, that they would run as cash. And
Well, you hit on a couple of good points. One is like, especially if you're doing episodic, I can't imagine there's a benefit at all to staying in cash. The trick is and if you saw this on community, you saw a conversation about this idea of earned. So another confusion about accrual is there's an understanding that you book the revenue when you make the invoice. So you actually, the day you make the invoice, not the day you get paid, you book that revenue. So I might book revenue in March and then I won't get paid for 90 days, but it looks like March revenue. The trick there is you only book what's earned on that revenue. So I could invoice December 30th and move 100% of that invoice into January because I can have zero of that invoice earned. And that's the key. So the invoice date, I think most people believe the invoice date is the earned date, and that's not necessarily true. It's just that accounting software like QuickBooks puts it in there based off that invoice date. And then you have to tell the software one more step of like, no, only 10% of that invoice is earned in that month or in that year. So there's one extra step. And that's most bookkeepers know how to do that or recognize, but that's the piece that's there. Unfortunately, but with cash, you do have to get lucky timing. You have to be like, hey, I could get a check and then not deposit that check until the 3rd or whatever. Like people kind of do that, bury the check in their desk for 7 days kind of thing. You don't have to do that with accrual. You could take the cash in the minute it comes in. You can send out invoices when they need to be sent out. And then it's that earned, the third piece of how much of that is earned and how much of that invoice am I deferring. That's the work that you have to do. There are actually some companies that would even recognize when you sign the contract is when you have that whole amount of money. Now, I'm not a firm believer in this because I think we actually have to deliver before we're guaranteed payment. So I kind of keep that principle. But I know some developers and other people are like, there's like a guarantee of funds when they sign the contract. And so they book it then. Totally great if you do that. So there are other areas that about your business that you might have to ask some of those questions and get more clarity about. But
Thank you for all the insights.
yeah, of course.
yeah, thank you.
You know what happens really is that I get on meetings and people ask me questions. I think that's a really good topic. I should just tell people that because it's a very odd thing to when you say it often, but you're not saying it to a larger group. You're just doing it one-on-one. How much information you have that you're passing on in the more difficult way. So I appreciate you guys, you just coming and being part of it, giving me an audience so I can get this stuff out there. It's great to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving. Vasila, do you guys doing Thanksgiving in Argentina? What are you guys doing?
No, we're definitely doing some drinking, but no Thanksgiving right now. So. No, there's a puppy just came in the office.
All right. Well, you guys have a happy holiday too.
Yeah,
And we'll
happy
see you guys.
holidays.
Thank you guys.
Yeah,
There's
Thanks.
none of this next week. You guys know that we're kind of canceling because of
Right.
Thanksgiving. So we'll see you
Yeah.
in 2 weeks.
Okay,
All right.
take care.
Have a great
Yeah.
one.